For Donelan Andrews, a high school teacher from Georgia, one sentence buried deep in a contract didn't cost her thousands. It made her $10,000. But let's be clear. Her story is the wild exception, the one in a million shot that proves the rule. For the rest of us, that one sentence we don't read usually does the exact opposite. It traps us in a phone plan we can't afford, locks us into a gym membership we can't escape, or signs away rights we didn't even know we had. This is how one woman beat the system by doing the one thing that almost no one does. It's the story of how she turned a company's own fine print against them. And more importantly, it's the blueprint for how you can protect yourself from the legal traps hiding in plain sight, just waiting for you to click, "I agree." We've all been there, right? A wall of text pops up on the screen. It's dense, it's boring, and it's the only thing standing between you and your new app, your movie ticket, or that thing you just bought. So, what do? You scroll, you tick the little box, and you click "I agree" without a second thought. It feels totally harmless, but you've just signed a legally binding contract. Every single word in that document, including the ones in that tiny, faded-out font, is now enforceable. And companies know we don't read them. Studies have shown that over 90% of us accept terms and conditions without ever reading them. Some reports show that as many as 97% of people rarely or never bother, which is a staggering number. Companies are literally banking on this. They rely on the fact that the fine print is too long, too complicated, and too boring for the average person to deal with. This leads to that awful feeling I call contract regret. It's the moment you realize your free trial just rolled over into a pricey annual subscription, or that the cheap flight you booked has a cancellation fee that costs more than the ticket itself. It's realizing you are legally bound to terms you never even knew existed. People aren't skipping the fine print because they're lazy. They're skipping it because legal jargon is intimidating and feels like a waste of time. But trusting that it's all standard is exactly how you get trapped. The courts generally operate under a rule called objective interpretation, which basically means they assume if you signed it, you understood it and agreed to it. That single click carries the same legal weight as your physical signature. To really appreciate how rare Donelan's win was, you need to understand the most common tricks companies hide in the fine print. These are the clauses specifically designed to take advantage of you not reading. Trick shown, the automatic renewal clause. This is the king of all contract traps. You sign up for a service, maybe a streaming platform, or a gym, usually with a great introductory offer. Buried deep in the terms is a clause stating that unless you proactively cancel, often within a ridiculously narrow window, your contract will automatically renew for another full term, almost always at a much higher price. Suddenly, that one-year deal is a 2, 3, or 4-year headache. They make the cancellation process a nightmare, while the renewal is silent and automatic. They're counting on you to forget. By the time you spot the charges on your bank statement, you're already locked in, and customer service will just point you back to the fine print you agreed to months ago. Trick 2, the waiver of your rights. This one is way more sinister. You could be signing away your fundamental rights without a clue. Look for phrases like forced arbitration clause or jury trial waiver. In plain English, this means that if you have a problem with the company, you can't sue them in a real court. Instead, you're forced into a private process called arbitration. Arbitration is often heavily stacked in the corporation's favor. The whole thing is private, the arbitrators are often chosen by the company, and the decisions are typically final, with almost no chance to appeal. You're giving up your day in court. Also, watch out for a class action ban. This stops you from teaming up with other customers who have the same problem, which is often the only way regular people can afford to hold a huge company accountable. These clauses are designed to isolate you and make it too expensive and difficult to fight back. Trick 3, hidden fees and vague language. The price you see advertised is almost never the price you actually pay. The fine print is where companies hide a minefield of extra costs. It could be an activation fee, a service charge, or a massive penalty for early termination. Credit card agreements are famous for this. They'll flash amazing cashback rewards or airline miles, But the fine print reveals a tangle of restrictions, minimum spending requirements, blackout dates, or rewards that expire so fast you can barely use them. Loan agreements can be even worse, hiding the true cost of borrowing in fees and insurance policies that go way beyond the advertised interest rate. Companies also use fuzzy words to give themselves an out. Phrases like reasonable efforts or at the company's discretion sound fine, but they basically mean the company can do whatever benefits them most. If the terms aren't specific, it's almost impossible to hold them to their end of the deal. So, with all these traps waiting for us, how did one person manage to flip the script? This is where Donelan Andrews' story gets really good. Donelan, a high school teacher with a background in consumer economics, had a lifelong habit. She always reads the fine print. It was a principle she even taught her students. In early 2019, she was planning a trip to London and bought a travel insurance policy from a company called Squaremouth. What she didn't know was that Squaremouth had launched a secret contest called Pays to Read. To prove how few people actually read policy documents, they hid a very special clause inside every contract. The company was so sure no one would find it that they planned for the contest to run for a whole year, with the prize money going to a children's literacy charity if it went unclaimed. But they didn't count on Donelan Andrews. She was working her way through the 4,000-word policy document when she got to page 7. There, she spotted a sentence that made her pause. If you've read this far, then you are one of the very few customers to review all of their policy documentation. It reminded her of a trick she used to put on her students' exams to reward them for paying attention. Intrigued, she kept reading. The text went on to say that the first person to email the company about the contest would win a $10,000 grand prize. She sent the email. A mere 23 hours after the contest launched, Donelan claimed the prize. The company was floored. They thought it would take months, if it happened at all. Donelan's simple habit of doing what the rest of us won't had turned a routine purchase into a $10,000 windfall. Donelan won her prize money, which she planned to use for a retirement trip to Scotland with her husband. And true to their word, Squaremouth also donated $10,000 to a children's literacy charity and another $5,000 to each of the 2 schools where Donelan teaches. Her story is amazing, but you don't need to find a hidden contest to win. You can save yourself thousands in fees and frustration by just being your own best defender. Here's your defense manual. Defense has shown. Take your time. Contracts are often thrown at you in high-pressure situations, but you're never obligated to sign something on the spot. Ask to take it home. Read it slowly, without anyone breathing down your neck. Any legitimate business will give you time to review an agreement. If they pressure you to sign right now, that's a huge red flag. Defense #2. Focus on the kill zones. You don't need a law degree to spot the danger zones. Use the search function, Ctrl+F, to hunt for specific keywords. Renewal, cancellation, fees, arbitration, waiver, and liability. Pay extra close attention to these sections. This is where the bodies are buried. Defense #3. Ask questions and get it in writing. If you see anything that's confusing or feels unfair, speak up. Ask them to explain it. And if they give you a verbal promise that contradicts what's in the contract, like, "Oh, don't worry about that part," insist they add it to the written document. Verbal promises are almost impossible to enforce in court. The written contract is king. Defense #4. Know when to call a professional. For simple stuff, you can probably handle the review yourself. But for life's big moments, a mortgage, a business loan, or a major freelance contract spending a few $100 for a lawyer to review, it is one of the smartest financial moves you can make. An expert will spot risks you'd never see, and their fee is a tiny fraction of what a bad contract could cost you. Donelan Andrews' story proves that knowledge isn't just power, it's money. If you've ever felt trapped by a contract, or if you have your own story about a fine print nightmare or victory, share it in the comments below. Your story could be the warning that saves someone else from a costly mistake. And for more ways to protect your money and your rights, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's next. That intimidating wall of text is designed to be ignored. It's a psychological game, and companies are betting that almost all of us will just scroll, click, and hope for the best. But as Donelan Andrews proved, every single word matters. The best way to avoid a contract nightmare isn't by finding a clever loophole to get out later. It's by never getting into one in the first place. Read before you sign. It might not make you $10,000, but it could easily save you that much and give you something even more valuable: peace of mind.